of this, right? Like overall topic, we have today only to cover all these chapters, so we'll try to get through it fast. We talk about leader or leadership, right? And then like management. Now, both words could be used interchangeably or maybe not. So are they both the same thing?
Well, still they both lead.
Okay, so some people say yes, right? They both still lead, okay? What's that? Kind of like, so yeah, they could be the same thing, right? They're synonymous, right? They're synonyms. So, people say they both still lead. What about those who differ? What's the difference?
One
leads, one manages. Keen observation, analytical skills beyond belief. What does that mean? What does managing mean? One inspires. And what you say? The manager commands, organizes, I heard, okay, organizes, coordinates, gives the task, orders, anything else, any similarities?
They both have people under them.
Okay, so they both have followers.
Be LVN or alright.
Okay, so title does not equate this, right? So does this apply to both, or to managers, or to leaders? This one, so leaders. So he says the no title applies to leaders, and some people said to managers too. So is it in the middle? So we're in debate. Some say yes, some say no. They both have power, or you mean like authority, right? Do they both? The manager has more authority?
Like they could fire someone, usually more than the leader. Leader is just like team leader.
So they do maybe both, right? Anything else?
You can have multiple team leaders, but usually just one manager, one assistant manager. Oh, like when you think hospital.
Said, no. He said, at my job.
I'll remember that one.
Oh, yeah. People then bring their workplace things, sometimes that's incorrect. Remember, we're doing by the book, there are state guidelines, so keep that in mind. And then if you ever say, in Grey's Anatomy, but in Grey's Anatomy, you better hope I don't have something within reach that I can talk about. Okay. All right, let's begin reading our book. So, if you follow along in chapter 1, it says managing client care, and I'll throw it up right now, but I want to keep the whiteboard with what we have up there for now. So feel free to follow through your book. If not, listen to me if you can bring it. So it says managing client care requires leadership, management skills, and knowledge to effectively coordinate and carry out client care. To effectively manage client care, a nurse must develop knowledge and skills in several areas, including leadership, management, critical thinking, clinical reasoning, clinical judgment, prioritization, time management, assigning, delegating, supervising, staff education, quality improvement, performance appraisal, peer review, disciplinary actions, conflict resolution, and cost-effective care. That's all that goes into leadership and management. Yes.
I was just gonna say, our book is different than the one you're reading. Ours is the 9, you're reading off the 8. You want mine?
Sure.
Follow them out.
Not everybody has the 9 though.
Yeah, not everybody has the 9.
Yeah, no, he's reading the 8.
I got your A addition 8s. Sharky's was wrong.
Yeah, it's the same thing. There might be a few lines that differ, feel free to point them out to me, but if they're worded just slightly different, unless it's like an action, like I tell you, do glucose, and then it doesn't say that, then point it out. But the overall concept is the same, and reading for it is nearly word by word the same. Okay, now we're in leadership, right? Leadership styles. You have autocratics, laissez-faire, right? So, and the characteristics of leaders. So, leadership management. Under the big module that it says management is the process of planning, organizing, directing, and coordinating the work within an organization. Leadership is the ability to inspire others to achieve a desired outcome. Effective managers usually possess good leadership skills. However, effective leaders are not always in a management position. Managers have formal positions of power and authority. Leaders might have only the informal power afforded them by their peers. One cannot be a leader without followers. So here are the points we touched upon. Managers are assigned, right? They are granted. Like we said, right? We have, for example, in one, a charge nurse. Yes? This is a position that is being filled. It was given to that person. This is your charge nurse for the shift. The other 3 nurses are under, right? She's a manager. Or the nurse manager, right? The unit manager. You know that nurse A is the manager for the unit, right? Comes in, does the schedule. Yes, that's a position. You didn't show up and they're like, today you're the nurse manager, right? You were given that position. You are granted that authority. You are assigned. That is your job. A leader is not assigned. They only have the authority that is given to them informally by their peers. So it says, some managers have good leadership skills, but leaders are not always managers. Everybody understand? The nurse manager might suck at leading, or maybe she's good. And she also inspires you, and she has your respect, and you want to do, and you work with her, and it's all great. Right? And other times, you don't, and the charge nurse sucks, you have no respect for her, she has no idea what she's doing, you don't care to follow, you don't care to listen, you don't care for anything. But, then Jake, and we all respect Jake, right? He's been here, he knows what to do, he's willing to always help you, he'll guide you, he'll point you in the right direction. Right? If he says the assignment should be X, Y, Z, we all switch our assignments and we design a new assignment regardless, right? We just switch our patients on the rosters, right? What Jake says, we usually go with. But Jake is just another floor. Does that make sense? As a leader, we have afforded him, right? We as the peers gave him that power because we believe in him. He inspires and we do, right? We know that he has a good vision for us. That's a leadership skill. The difference between managers and leaders. Assigned, granted, voted in basically. But in some occasion, like we said, some managers can be great leaders. But great leaders are not always the manager. They're not always in that position. They are just another floor nurse. Make sense? Everybody's clear so far? All right. kind of what we're going over now with a portion of our exercise. Now, there are leadership styles, and your questions that come up on your exams usually give you scenarios, and you have to identify, based on what they're describing on the question, they'll just say like, what kind of leadership style, right, is the nurse displaying? Or they'll give you the leadership style, and they'll ask you to say that in what situation should you use this leadership style. So you have autocratic or authoritarian. This is kind of, some people can remember it more easily by saying that it's like a dictator, right? Autocratic, authority. What I say goes. Makes decisions for the group, motivates by coercion, that means almost right forcefully. Communication occurs down the chain of command or from the highest management level downwards. Work output is usually high, good for crisis situations and bureaucratic settings. Effective for employees with little to no formal education. Then you have democratic, right? What the democratic should look like. We all take a vote, we all pitch in, and we go based on our group consensus, right? Includes groups when decisions are made, motivates by supporting staff achievement. Communication will occur up and down the chain of command, right? We take the input from everybody. Work output by staff is usually of good quality when cooperation and collaboration are necessary. And then you have your last style. Laissez-faire. Makes very few decisions, right? And does little planning. Motivation is largely the responsibility of individual staff members. Communication occurs up and down the chain of command and between group members. Work output is low unless an informal leader evolves from the group, effective with professional employees. Right? They know their vision, they know what they need to do, show up, no one needs to be breathing down their neck, micromanaging, right? They get it done. Right? It's kind of guided just by our own, somebody kind of just has some inspiration in the group. I get the work done. So, the question arises, which one is the better leadership style to have? Democratic, laissez-faire. Why democratic? Higher work output, good quality, yes?
To get other people like
Get other people like in time, you said, or involved?
Intel. INTEL.
Oh, intel, like their input. Okay, why laissez-faire? Because it says it?
Professional employee.
What if, can we have unprofessional employees? Why not autocratic? No one wants to.
I like
You think that's the best one? Yeah.
It says little to or don't make it.
Oh, you're all educated, though. Alright. Is it fair to say that not only one style is used? Could be a situational leader, right? More specifically, like what kind of situation? Democratic is good, right? What if we all want to take vacation the same week? But we're voting, you should. You need now.
You need somebody.
Autocratic. Right? Right, so laissez-faire poses this problem, democratic imposes this problem. When for sure do you require an autocratic leader? Like? Fire. We said a fire, an emergency, a code, right, a code blue, right? We're not gonna sit there and ask what should we do first, right? Somebody takes lead, lower the bed, the backboard, start doing airway, start the IV meds, grab the crash cart, put on the pads, right? Start taking notes, call 911, get the paperwork ready so we can send them out, right? There was orders given, followed through, and together with those orders, it comes through. Make sense? So it is situational about what's needed when, and it could be, in some situations we have autocratic, while with some democratic will pose a better situation, and in some cases, laissez-faire. Very difficult to make laissez-faire work though, I feel like, especially in a lot of SNFs and whatnot. Again, unless there is motivation. We were talking about teamwork. We all just want to get the shift done. Let's get it done, right? Nobody's trying to do the most minimal thing possible, and everybody's just struggling because the rest have to pick up the slack. Laissez-faire doesn't work at that point when you're trying to be minimalistic. Make sense? All right. Characteristics of leaders. Initiative. They inspire. They have energy. Positive attitude. Communication skills. I cannot stress that enough. Communication skills. How you talk to people. It's not even about what you say. It's a big portion of how you say it. How you talk to people. Body language, tone, word choice and vocabulary, respect, problem solving, critical thinking skills, a combination of personality and leadership. Leaders influence, willing followers to move towards a goal. Leaders that have goals might differ from those of the organization. 3 types of leaders: transformational, transactional, and authentic. Now, emotional intelligence might be the next big thing next to jogging. Okay? You don't know what jogging is? It revolutionized the 80s. It changed the entire perspective of the world. Emotional intelligence is said to be the new. Okay, emotional intelligence is the ability of an individual to perceive and manage the emotions of self. Something got dropped. And others. The nurse must be able to perceive and understand their own emotions and the emotions of the client and family in order to provide the client-centered care. Emotional intelligence is also an important characteristic of a successful nurse leader, developed through understanding the concept and applying it to practice in everyday situations. Emotional leaders have insight to the emotions of the others, understands their perspectives, encourages constructive criticism, is open to new ideas, manages emotions, channels them in a positive direction, which in turn helps accomplish its goals, refrains from judgment in controversial or emotionally charged situations. This is what it looks like. More selfless and more conscious of everybody. Somebody could come in, family member, your coworker, CNA, anybody else, responds to you rudely. Somebody who's just a normal person, basically, or not emotionally intelligent, they get triggered. Why are you yelling at me? Right? You're angry, you're disrespecting me, you're yelling, you're raising your voice. So what's the natural response? Okay? You give it back. Majority of us believe in, if you treat me this way, I will treat you the same. Right? An emotionally intelligent person, as difficult as it may seem, is she mad at me? Or is she just mad? Yes? Right? Maybe they're mad. Not at me. I would recognize this. Did I do something? Am I involved here? Is she simply mad? How do I solve this? How do we help? Where does this get guided? Patient develops a ulcer, dies. Family member comes in, raging, hysterical. Is it at you? You just showed up. This is your first day. Never had the patient before. Right? So the emotionally intelligent person can see a situation, analyze a person's emotions, their sadness, whatever they're experiencing, anger, frustration, and understand it's not towards myself. I see it all too often. Happened to me the other day. I'm on the Pyxis, I'm about to get started. If you don't know, in the hospital there's one machine. We all get the medication from one damn place, okay? Forming a line in the morning. It's finally my turn. Last one sucks. You're not starting med pass until 8:30. Okay? Finally it's my turn. Dude rushes in, He's like, excuse me, can I just get one med out of here? Right? Anything, buddy? Right? Gets his med, goes his off. And then I tell him, do you need help? Are you still backed up? Because does he care? Is that situation personal towards me? Right? Patient's yelling. I can feel him down the hall to give him his pain medication. Right? He's stressed beyond belief. Received the patient from ER. Patient's yelling at him from down the hall. He just needs to get it done, right? It's not personal. But a lot of people do take it. Make sense? It's not making a difference. So to be able to analyze something, that's one situation. Because we're all human, we all get mad. It's all triggering, obviously. But the emotional intelligence is about no longer being self-conscious, right? Self-centered is the more thing, and more so about being self-aware in response to everything going on around you. It should make a big difference. I think it's a very difficult thing for Americans to understand or even participate in because we believe in individualism. I am important. The world must shape and revolve to around me, not to anybody else. We're very individualistic in our nature. So to then now start expanding outwards is very difficult. But I promise you, should you try to practice this every day, you're gonna get along better with your patients, your family, your coworkers, not your family, your patient's family, or your own family. I know, she's been like this since 3. Right? So you learn to become aware and try to look at the roots of the problem, and you are more effective at resolving the problem. Nothing positive will come from just escalating the situation. Okay? You might feel better, but the overall situation won't. And you're gonna be back at it the next time. Emotional intelligence is, again, self-awareness to resolve bigger problem overall. Or not minding it, it's not even good. Management. 5 major management functions: organizing, staffing, planning, directing, and controlling. You guys kind of hit this spot on when talking about management, right? There's the person who's gonna debate the task. What do we have to do? How many patients do we have? Do we have enough nurses? Who gets the overflow, right? We're short CNAs. Who's gonna have personal care, right? They're organizing, they're staffing, they're planning, they're directly making sure everything is going towards a good direction, right? That's a manager. Characteristics of them: they hold formal positions, like we said, of authority and power. They are assigned, they have a title. Possess clinical expertise, hopefully. Network with members of the team. They coach your subordinates, meaning you teach them and guide them. And you make decisions about the function of the organization, including resources, budget, hiring, and firing. Now, critical thinking is used to analyze client issues and go beyond, right? Critical thinking reflects upon the meaning of statements. So you don't just take it what it is, you look beyond it. Clinical reasoning is the mental process when analyzing elements of a clinical situation. Okay, the nurse continues to use clinical reasoning as the client situation changes, while clinical judgment is a decision made regarding a course of action based on a critical analysis of data. So what does this translate to? Clinical reasoning is basically your thought process. Can you analyze? Can you critically think about what's happening with the patient? Clinical judgment is the decision you chose to make, right? Patient has a history of heart failure, diabetes, kidney disorder, you see it all the time. Patient has difficulty breathing, right? I feel short of breath. Clinical reasoning, trying to understand why that's happening. Is their airway blocked? Do they just have fluid in their lungs? Right? The clinical reasoning will guide you to that. What else do you feel? Check the oxygen saturation, listen to their lungs, check their airway, right? And based on that, you have your findings, your reasoning, clinical reasoning, your analysis, your critical thinking. The judgment is, what do I do? Oxygen saturation is 95, feel short of breath, I hear crackles, they're laying down, sit them up, right? The fluid is spreading throughout. You need to sit them up. They'll breathe easier, right? Start oxygen, whatever you want to do. So the decision you made was your judgment. The reasoning is your critical thinking, your assessment, your clinical skills. Now these improve over time. Oftentimes I hear people say, like, nursing school did me no favors, I have absolutely nothing to like do, or like I don't know what to do. And it can feel like that, especially for entry. Remember, you're here to learn entry-level nursing. Your entire first year, you're a novice nurse, okay? You're a beginner for the first like year after you complete your year, right? So you're like novice the first month or two, beginner for your first year. Years 1 to 3, you start becoming, right, an intermediate nurse. 3 to 5, right, they say I think advanced. And 5 and up, you are an expert. You have developed very, very good clinical reasoning skills. I think it goes over it here at some point. Prioritization. Nurses must continuously set and reset priorities in order to meet the needs of multiple clients and maintain client safety. This goes back to your plane situation, right? We all had different things. Some of you wanted to look up at Google. Some of you already knew how to do it. Some of you thought it was important to do this and that. Being able to prioritize is key. And I like what it says, which is you will continuously set and reset your priorities. Because what was happening at 7 a.m. may no longer be the problem at 9 a.m. Right? Somebody can be doing better, somebody can be doing worse. You're continuously putting your priorities first. Who's gonna go, what needs to be done first? Prioritization of principles in client care. This is more important. I'll give you questions like this on your quiz, and ATI likes to give you situations, okay? Basically, they'll give you either 4 clients, each with a problem, or they will give you 1 client with 4 problems, and they'll ask, what do you do first? Whenever it says first or priority intervention, it means there are multiple correct answers. We will do all of these things, or a couple of them, but which one do we do first? The priority. Make sense? So that's what you're trying to learn here. And principles to apply to this is prioritize systemic before local, life before limb. Okay? Patient, something happens to their arm, right? Start developing an infection. Let's say in a situation where you'd have to constrict or cut off circulation to not spread it, might lose the arm, but right, you live. So being able to prioritize life before limb. Acute before chronic. So acute is less opportunity for client agitation, greater opportunity for physical agitation for the chronic. So this is basically being able to say somebody has a new injury or illness, mental confusion, chest pain, versus an acute exacerbation of a long-term chronic illness. The example I give for this one is asthma and COPD. Okay? Someone's airways begin to constrict, right? They're inflamed. This is happening quickly. They quickly feel short of breath. They cannot depend on a low oxygen saturation. They're gonna feel and possibly, right, in the worst case die from their decrease. Someone from COPD, if they're at 91, 90% O2 sat, this is normal, right? Their clients over their airways slowly becoming so shriveled up, right, and not working well, they have adjusted, their body has adjusted to ride on a low oxygen saturation. They are not a threat until they fall even lower. Make sense? Chronic, right, it's even in the name, right, versus acute, right? Somebody has adapted to this versus somebody who is suffering something happening now, that's developing over the course of the last day, hours. This is serious, it's progressing fast, not chronic. Prioritize actual problems before potential future problems, right? Patient is in pain and they also want to eat, and you're worrying about how their blood glucose will spike after their meal. The pain is real and right here, right now. Their blood glucose is not currently high, right? You should perform a better diet, but it's not a problem currently. So don't choose the meal, choose the diet. Make sense? Actual problems versus future. Recognize and listen carefully to clients. Don't assume, so you deal with their actual problems. Recognize and respond. Indications of medical emergencies versus expected findings. The one that I give to them is they give you a patient, a common question that I had seen is one that the patient had surgery, like abdominal surgery, and he felt a pop. The other one is the patient has Alzheimer's, and they're like yelling, or like becoming like they're like pacing. The other one was the patient has CHF, right? Heart failure, feels fatigue, right? And I forgot what the fourth one was. And the answer is the surgical one. Because it's not normal for them to feel the pop, right? That something's spreading out in their stomach. It could be that their incision is adhesives. Can the CHF patient feel fatigue? It's expected. I expect my CHF patient to feel fatigue, short of breath, right? Tired. This is normal, okay? It's expected, and it's not alarming for them because it's part of their disease process. Diabetes and their blood glucose is 140. That's fine. It's elevated, but it's expected, especially after they eat, right? So making sure you understand real versus acute problem, chronic versus acute. What's expected within it. Now before scrolling down, we'll go over on how do you do this? What are systems that you will use? How do you prioritize people? ABCs?
Maslow.
Maslow's. We just went over a few.
Acute versus chronic.
Acute versus chronic.
Urgent versus non-urgent.
What was the urgent what?
Urgent versus non-urgent.
Urgent versus non-urgent, almost like this, right? This is very similar to acute versus chronic. Non-urgent.
Safety.
Huh?
Is there one?
Actual versus future. Similar as well, but yes. Right? Abnormal versus normal, which is kind of what we said right here, the expected, unexpected, or abnormal. Jeez. Unexpected versus expected. Maslow's is amongst these are usually good, but I tell people, everybody knows ABCs. And when you don't have ABC, and when you can't resolve it with it, it's not an ABC problem, people then lose it. Like, they don't know what to do next. Like, what do I do first then? With their airlines off. Right? So it's the assessment then really kicks in. Maslow's is good, especially when doing one person, right? With multiple problems. Like, what do we do? So it's easy to say Maslow's, but I need you to be able to apply it more realistically. So what are the levels? First is?
Physiological needs.
Huh? Physiological. Right? I spelled that wrong, but it's okay. Then?
Safety and security.
Safety and security. Then? Prestige, right? Actualization. Right? And do we know what falls into it? What's physiological? Food, shelter, hydration, and oxygenation, and those are the three keywords: oxygenation, diet, hydration, shelter. There's one more. Sleep, pain. There's one more that you forget.
Sex.
Sex. Okay. Safety and security. This is not only that they are free from harm at home, it's also that they have financial security. Right? They're not currently worrying about losing their apartment or losing their lifestyle. That's a part of safety and security as well that I've seen them try to aim. Love and belongingness. Even just community. A lot of people then praise love and belongingness. So what everybody is obsessed with, Romeo and Juliet, right? My love, my soulmate, I must find them. Somebody to take me out to nice dinners and whatnot. Love and belongingness is community, family, friends, somebody that they can rely on and talk to is what it relates to. When they feel alone, stranded, and without anybody around them, that is them failing at love and belongingness. People are not failing at love and belongingness just because they don't have a romantic partner. It's about community, friends, family as well. Those are satisfying in one way or another. Self-esteem. This is them feeling good and okay about themselves, about who they are and within themselves. The difference from that is this is needed while prestige is additional, right? You don't need to have a master's degree or a doctorate degree. You don't need to run a marathon, right? You don't need to do, these are accomplishments, things that you're doing generally for yourself. Your life and like health does not depend on it, right? This is completely up to you and an accomplishment for yourself. It's not needed. Make sense? That's the difference. So when asked to differ between those or list them in order, you need another order and what that really means. A problem that I see on people's proctors is one, they have a lot of like memory and recall.